Hi, I'm Gary Sutton. I'm with Jeffrey Lord, author of Swamp Wars, former member of the Reagan administration, now Fox News contributor. Jeffrey, good morning. How are you?
I am just fine, Gary. Too bad there's nothing to talk about.
No, nothing at all. And I know you're a guy, we always look back and say, this week in Trump land. Well, when you look at this week in Trump land, there's an old saying about if you're going to go get someone, make sure both guns are loaded, right? And I say that figuratively, not literally. They didn't get Donald Trump, and it looks like Donald Trump is now exacting some revenge. I mean, last Friday, he frog marched out the Inman Brothers. Then he got Gordon Sondland to resign brought him home from being the ambassador to the European Union. He's going after some judges right now who went against him, and he's stepping in there. He tweeted out about how sad he was about Roger Stone getting 7 to 9 years. Well, the Justice Department rethinking that, and of course, there's not a whole lot that anybody can do right now for the first time. And so what's going on here from your vantage point?
Yeah, well, several things. I mean, first of all, in terms of the Inman Brothers, I mean, I have to say, as somebody who worked in the Reagan White House, in the White House as an institution myself, the president has 100% authority to have or not have anybody he wants working for him. And it is quite apparent that these two guys, the one in particular, Lieutenant Colonel Inman, went out of his way to try and sabotage the president,
right?
His boss, the commander-in-chief, if you're in a military uniform. And I can only tell you, if you're on the White House staff and you disagree with something the president has done, there's a way to deal with that. You write up your letter of resignation. You ask for an appointment with the president. You go into the Oval Office. You say, "Sir, I'm sorry, but you've done X, and I disagree with it. Here is my resignation." You salute and you walk out. And then in this day and age, if you want to go write a book and say the whole thing, then you do it. What you do not do is slink around and sabotage him in secret to try and get him impeached. I mean, that is so far above and beyond what is responsible here that, I mean, it almost leaves me without words. I mean, you just simply don't do this.
Well, the idea of loyalty.
I really don't have a very high opinion of what was done here, and I think the president is 100% within his rights to fire him.
Well, there's a loyalty factor, and people say, okay, how do you balance loyalty to the country and loyalty to your boss? And obviously, you've been in that situation where you work for Ronald Reagan. You have to balance that. But at the same time, if you disagree with the president on something, go tell him you disagree with him and take your shot. I mean, that's the way you do it, is man to man. You don't take it outside, just like when you make a decision. You know, you're involved in the decision-making process, and your decision doesn't come out, and you say, well, I'm going to throw a tantrum and run out and tell everybody. Or do you say, I carry it out like it was my own, and if you can't do that, as you just so aptly stated, go tell them you can't and step out, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what was not done here.
Roger Stone. Let me throw him out.
Roger Stone. All right. Let me start with full disclosure here. I know Roger Stone. I worked with Roger in the 1984 Reagan re-election campaign. I was the chief of staff to Drew Lewis, who was very prominent in Pennsylvania Republican politics, was the nominee for Republican nominee for governor in 1974, as I recall. He lost to Milton Schaap. Went on to be Reagan's Secretary of Transportation, who fired the air traffic controllers famously in 1981.
Remember that? Yep.
And then he went back into the private sector. He was the CEO of something called Warner Amex Cable TV, Amex as in American Express. It was the predecessor company to Time Warner. And while he was doing that, he served as a co-chair of the president's re-election campaign.
Shame you can't remember what he did,
So I was his chief of staff and worked out of the Reagan campaign headquarters in Washington, along sometimes with working in Drew's own office in New York, in Rockefeller Center. Roger was the Northeastern guy. He was responsible for the Northeastern states for the Reagan campaign.
Right.
So, he was just down the hall from me. I saw him every single day. We were in staff meetings together. I was always amused because Roger is quite the dandy.
Yes.
And he was always razzing me about my shoes. Lord, polish those shoes. What's the matter with you?
Right.
So that said, I know him. I like him. I hadn't seen him very much, if at all. I think I saw him once at the 2016 convention. I ran into him by accident. He can be kind of eccentric. As
Yes.
I said, a bit of a dandy, and all of that kind of thing. That said, what you've got here are vengeful prosecutors. One or two of whom were working with Robert Mueller. They hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so they target Roger for, I still don't even understand. All this business with WikiLeaks.
Right.
This is just ridiculous stuff. And giving him a sentence that is far more than, if you, as I understand it, if you were convicted of rape, you get 4 years.
Right. This is 7 to 9 years they were talking about.
Roger, who's now in his late 60s or early 70s, they want to send him away for 9 years or something like this.
Right.
This is vengeful prosecution, and in a larger sense, this is the problem in Washington here. Whether it was the FBI and the Peter Strzok's and Lisa Pages of the world, or James Comey or Andrew McCabe, whether it was Bruce Orr in the Justice Department. Whether it's these guys, they hate the president.
Yeah.
And they're going to do everything in their power to undermine him. And that is a serious problem.
Jeffrey, always good talking to you. I hope people will check out Swamp Wars. Thank you so much, and I look forward to our next time very soon, my friend.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Bye-bye.
Take care. Jeffrey Lord here on WSBA. Listen weekdays 6 to 9 on News Talk 93.9 and 910 WSBA.